Hi folks, welcome to your latest mwis planning outlook in association with Ellis Brigham. Now, weather is getting into a more volatile state as we head into the weekend, as thunderstorms are expected to break out increasingly widely across the country, all leading to an unsettled trend into next week as low pressure takes charge for a few days, things quite a bit cooler than we've been used to in recent times. Just the indication, though, as time goes further on, that higher pressure will start to edge its way back in. Quite a bit of weather going on before we get to that though, so let's take you through the sequence. This is the chart for Saturday. Now, low pressure is stationed towards the west at this stage. A front of sorts is coming up from the south and southwest, but it's all going to be a little bit more ragged and complicated than would be suggested by just one front on this chart, as areas of rain and some thunderstorms spread their way northwards. The greatest risk of those is across northern England and across Wales, showers that bit more scattered across the Highlands. It will be a generally warm and humid feeling day for many places. Now, there will be some cloud breaks to higher slopes away from rain, best of that typically across northern Scotland, but where rain fills in a bit more, that cloud will form at various levels, some ragged patches even down to lower slopes, and around the Irish Sea, a greater risk of that low cloud and fog filling in more widely. Let's just run the story then, starting off in the early hours of Saturday, and some remnants of showers that will have been around over the Highlands late Friday, likely to still linger around, some bursts of rain in places first thing in the morning towards the north. Further south, it is that sporadic zone of rain that's coming northwards associated with that front. Fairly patchy in nature, but maybe some steadier rain, the odd heavy burst in there for an hour or so. The front itself somewhere across northern England as we head toward the middle of the day, where rain may just be that bit more constant. The risk of some thundery bursts in that across the Pennines, perhaps into the Lake District as well. You can see that the showers are a little bit more scattered and hit and miss across the Highlands, moving around fairly slowly in light winds. The odd heavy burst, a risk of isolated thunder, but generally a lower risk of thunder for the Highlands on Saturday. The greater risk is across northern England and across Wales in particular too as we go deeper into the afternoon. That's maybe where some more extensive thundery downpours get going, also across central eastern England as the afternoon goes on, and that whole zone late in the day is more likely to fill in into the Peak District and the South Pennines for a more extensive cluster of thunderstorms as we head late on in the day. And all of that rumbling on into the evening and the night, and some bursts of rain then to continue here and there as we go overnight into early Sunday. So the risk of even a burst of rain first thing in the morning. That risk of downpours just increases hour by hour though as we head onwards into the daytime through Sunday. A few hours in the morning may escape in some places generally dry, but as we head toward the middle of the day and the afternoon, an ever greater risk of some torrential downpours, thunderstorms almost anywhere, with some frequent thunder and lightning in places from western Scotland into central Scotland, down the spine of England. Maybe just eastern parts of the Highlands escaping somewhat clearer, but the risk of some banks of low cloud and fog lapping into eastern hills on the southeasterly breeze here, and maybe just West Wales later on as the breeze picks up from the southwest will tend to push the thundery downpours further eastwards across Wales, but a few bands could still run across South and Mid Wales off into the Midlands. A pretty active afternoon, not a pleasant one to be out on the hills. The synoptic chart itself doesn't really have too much of a story to tell, apart from it's just generally low pressure that's over the British Isles, areas of fronts and troughs that just energise the instability in the atmosphere and get things going into those torrential downpours. It's still fairly warm and humid, the temperatures maybe having come down a touch from previous days though. The wind generally pretty light, but locally some sudden gusty conditions ahead of these downpours. The cloud will vary, often pretty extensive across the hills. It's quite a damp atmosphere and will form extensively to lower levels where rain exists and where rain has recently fallen as the atmosphere just stays saturated. It's those ragged fragments of cloud that form to the lowest levels. As we head onwards into the new week, it's all really the warmed up leftovers of the weekend that's still left behind, basically, as zones of remnants of fronts and troughs exist to produce some further showers and thundery downpours. Some places may escape not too bad for a few hours, but expect again some bursts of rain to be in the forecast. And then we're watching the next more deepening area of low pressure coming in from the southwest later on Monday. That has the threat of some more extensive heavy rain and strong winds Pennines developing into Wales. There may just be a bit of a gap across Wales and the South Pennines through the day on Monday. Wouldn't rule out a burst of rain at this stage, but maybe just in between the various bits of weather you'll get away with a half decent day. By Tuesday, though, that low to the southwest has swung itself across the country. Now, difficulty exactly where the centre of that low does its rotation. There's the scope for extensive, prolonged heavy rainfall for some areas. Now, whether that extends north into Scotland or spins more across northern England and Wales is hard to say at this stage, but expect a generally poor day and rain or some heavy downpours to be in the forecast. Strong winds too around the southern flank of that low, the risk of gales for a time for the Welsh mountains, the South Pennines as well. In the centre of the low, further north, there may be very little wind, but I think we can expect extensive low cloud across the hills most or all of the day. Things trying to get a little bit better by the middle of the week as low pressure drags away eastwards. It may still not be a simple story because the atmosphere will still have some instability left in there. It's a fairly cool and showery picture that is in existence by this stage. Something of a trough then is still across the British Isles that will just set off some further showers through the daytime. Some brighter spells in there, temperatures then feeling rather cool with the airflow coming in off the North Atlantic by this stage. So it's the rather more disappointing side of a British summer that is with us into next week. This is the chart in the early part of the week. It's looking at the big picture. There's that deep low that swings through and drags northwards Tuesday into Wednesday. Higher pressure exists over the Atlantic to our west, and that will have a go then at trying to build in as we go through into the second half of the week. We've just got that cooler westerly airflow for a time. And then I think a fairly mixed pattern as we go onwards towards next weekend and just beyond. The odd ridge of high pressure having a go at building in. Still bits and pieces of weather over the North Atlantic trying to come our way, so a few days where some showers still exist in the forecast. Neither one thing nor the other really, not completely getting low pressure over the top of us, but also not quite getting high pressure to build in fully. Maybe has a bit more of a go coming up from the southwest as we go further ahead into the weekend and maybe just beyond to give something a bit more settled. The idea may be that high pressure is centred a bit more toward the south for a change. We've mentioned that in recent videos, while some weather still drifts through across Scotland from time to time. Eventually the whole pattern may sort of default back to where we've been in more recent times, deeper into July, where higher pressure pushes back toward the north, allows pressure to fall toward the south, and that would give a more favourable situation for northern Britain, whilst the south goes back into something wetter and more thundery. That may be the pattern as we head even later on into July. Before all of that, though, it's a rather unsettled few days ahead. Watch out for those thunderstorms, then keep a close eye on the skies if you're out and about. Stay up to date with all our content every day on the mwis website. That's your planning outlook in association with Ellis Brigham. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.